Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 59, where tonight we'll do our best to analyse the Chelsea game. We're taking it one step closer, but we've still work to do, taking your questions and looking ahead to Brentford. Of course, I can't do this by myself, and I'm delighted to be joined just about by our Director of Football, Chris Tyler, and Club Captain, Mark Knock. Delighted to have a positive show. As always, the show is recorded live, so your comments on YouTube and Facebook, unfortunately Twitter isn't available to do that yet, your comments are very most welcome. Before the show as well, we asked for questions on Twitter. We've had an incredible response this week. There's quite a lot of duplicates, so if your question didn't get on, do appreciate you putting it down and putting your thoughts forward. So let's get straight into things. We were all there on Saturday to witness Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, Chelsea 0. Nocky, talk me through your view of that magnificent win.
You're very confident it's going to be positive, aren't you? I'm not 100% on that. No, it was fantastic. It was. I think the conversation we had on the last podcast, where when the games are like this, when there's not as much pressure on them, they're not expected maybe to win it, you see a better Wolverhampton Wanderers, and we saw that against Liverpool, we saw that against Spurs, and we saw that against Chelsea, where we didn't concede in any of those games. I thought the performance was excellent. I thought we were much, much better. We looked balanced. We looked really solid in midfield. Defensively, we were excellent. Up front, Costa was great when he didn't have the ball. His off-the-ball work was absolutely fantastic, and I thought Cunha playing where he did was probably his best game in a Wolves shirt. He was in and out. He was taking people on. He was committing defenders. He was pulling people out of position. A real good performance by him. But for me, the two in midfield made the massive difference. João Gomez and Lamina controlled the game against some really talented footballers. And then Núñez, outstanding performance. My man of the match. I thought he was excellent. Even take the goal out of it, I thought he was superb with the way that he played. And playing him on the right-hand side he looked more comfortable. He's right-footed, so I don't know why we've been playing him out on the left, because we all can see now what he can do with his right foot. But it was a really accomplished performance, and it's a massive, massive 3 points. We can't get too carried away, because we've been here before, but it's a big, big 3 points in a time when we desperately needed them, especially with the other results around us. I
mean, first of all, Nocky, congratulations to one pulled it up last week. You said you're going to go for a 1-1 with a Núñez screamer. So I think you're only the second person to call the goal scorer like that. I think Jackie called it once. Tyler, I think you might have got a goal scorer earlier on as well. But yeah, fair play on that call, considering he'd never even looked like scoring. Tyler, it's a fantastic result. You called it yourself, really. You said in the week, you joked about it, I kind of fancy us. Pressure's off a little bit, and I think we'll see a better Wolves. And you were right.
It's just what we've all been asking for, isn't it? Aggressive front foot football. We've been a bit doom and gloom recently, but I think rightly so on the level of performance. But all we've been asking for is aggression, the right team to be picked, the players in the right positions, and look what happens when you do it. It's no fluke. It was Cunha's best game because he was playing off Costa. It's not, is it? I think he just got it right. We criticised him recently for getting it wrong, and he got it right on Saturday, credit where it was due. And for some reason, I did fancy us, and I think we all talked before the game, didn't we? And yeah, Chelsea are great technically, and they'll look brilliant on the ball, but they didn't want it, did they? Really, they weren't up for it. And playing players like Totti and João Gomez and Lamina, we did make it a bit of a battle, didn't we, at times, and we were a bit horrible sometimes. And I just did think Chelsea fancied it, and I think we wanted it more on the day, and yeah, it took a worldie of a goal to win it, but we had other chances, didn't we? And I don't remember Salah having to do anything. I might be wrong, but I don't remember him having to make a save. There's a last-ditch block from Dawson, wasn't there? And Kilman sort of got rid of Pulisic. That was probably the only time I thought we looked under threat. Really good performance. I think 7, 8 out of 10 all round, really. You can't criticise anyone.
Yeah, I think the only Jose Sarr save was when João Felix picked the ball up just before half time on our right hand side, and he cut him with his right, and he pinged one. It was straight down Sarr's throat, made it look easy, even though it was an absolute rocket straight at him. But yeah, Nocky, it's, as Tyler just said, it's everything we've wanted in recent weeks. By my reckoning, it was a 4-4-2 stroke 4-2-3-1. Costa, as you said, did lots of horrible work, teamwork off the ball, pressing, nudging, annoying, and that space allowed Cunha to play.
Yeah, I think it's frustrating in a way, because if we'd have lined up against Forest, we'd lined up against Leeds, with similar ideals and similar system, then we're probably sat halfway up the league now. But it worked really well. And I think with Cunha, he doesn't like being a central striker. He likes playing just off. He likes being in a little pocket behind and where he can really influence the game. And that was by a distance his best game for Wolves. I mean, there was one moment when they appealed for a penalty in the second half and he beat two men, played it to Nunes, who should have struck it first time or gone on the outside. But he's got that ability about him, and I don't think we've seen anywhere near the best of Cunha. But if we start playing him in this system with those kind of players around him, and it's not rocket science, is it? You play people in the right position. If you put your midfielders where they're supposed to be, you put your attackers in the right positions where they feel comfortable, you play solid defensive formation, you're going to get the best out of players. And just a word on Totti as well. I mean, I've been pretty not critical of Lopetegui, but I've questioned some of his decisions in recent weeks. And I questioned playing Totti there, but he was absolutely brilliant. He was full of energy. His work rate was outstanding. He's not technically the most gifted player in the world. We all know that, but he gets you up the pitch, and he's got a little bit of Mo Kamara about him, where he's just head down and he just ploughs forward and keeps going, and he'll win you around. And I thought he had a really good game, and it was nice to see that effort and work rate, and it just got everyone going, I think. And it was a really, really good day. And I was there with my lad, and we sat right behind the goal where Nunes struck that. So it was a fantastic experience to be there. And it's another one that although it's been a poor season, some of the wins we've had have been really impressive. So it's another one for the list.
Yeah, we seem to play really bad or win really well, Tyler. But fortunately, it was in the bracket of win really well. And I think let's move on to the goal, Tyler. We've been treated to some Ruben Neves and a couple of João Moutinho wonderful strikes over the years in the Premier League, but that's up there with them, isn't it? The technique to let the ball drop as low to the ground as possible, clean laces. I mean, I think we're all saying shoot from there, probably with no backing because we don't think it, but he couldn't have caught that cleaner. And the noise, Tyler, when that in, it was wonderful.
I'll give it 1 in 100 that goes in, do you reckon? You hit it that well?
In training?
Even at that level, yeah, they don't happen very often, do that? Especially, like you said, from a guy who's obviously gone in his locker. He scored worldies, didn't he, for Sporting, but he hasn't looked like scoring for us, has he, really? And I was sort of behind the goal as well, like you two were. And same as yours, like shoot, but I don't know why I was saying shoot. Probably just to have a shot on it. And it was just the way it sort of, it's the noise it makes when it hit the net. You could hear it make that bang first, and then the crowd go up. And it was just one of those good moments, wasn't it? And, fully warranted. I mean, he's had his critics. I think he's a very good footballer. I think we all do, don't we? But he's had his critics. But to be fair, he hasn't really been given an opportunity to play a run of games, probably where he wants to. He's been wide left, wide right. He's been holding midfielder. He's been attacking midfield. He's been a bit of a, jack of all trades, hasn't he? And he's never really moaned about it. He's got on with it, and he started to pay that fee back, didn't he? Because on with Knockham, it's just a huge 3 points, and there is more work to do. But with the results at the weekend, even I'm looking at it now thinking, crikey, we can't mess it up from here, surely. So I think it was just a massive goal and a massive result, and fully deserved. If it had been 2 or 3, I don't think Chelsea would have had any complaints.
I don't think Mitch has been talked about the build-up to the goal, Nocky. But apart from the defender's flick away, there was some nice little play there. I mean, I think it was Cunha's little back heel, played it into space. Then Podenta's picked it up outside of his foot. I can't remember who the flick on was, but it fell for Costa, and then the touch. So the interplay was there. But Nocky, it's been a while since we celebrated a goal that good at Molineux.
I think it's one of them goals that stays with you. And then we've all got a few on our list. For me, I've got Mark Kennedy was up there against Stockport years ago when we beat them 4-1, and he hit a rocket with the outside of his left boot into the top corner. You sort of, some goals just stick in your head, they stick in your mind, and they become memories that you never shake off, and that's going to be one of them for me. It was everything from the build-up play, like you say, Cunha gets the flick on, they clear it away, and there was just this evil thud off his foot when he hit it, and it just seemed to echo around the old ground, and then it absolutely flew into the net. And my lad was up like a salmon. He was really enjoying it. It was just a fantastic moment, and one of the moments that you need to be there to experience it, because it's such an emotional experience when something like that happens, especially when you're in the situation we're in, where every point's a prisoner. You're desperate for results. You're desperate for points, and you've got a player there who, as Chris said, he's better than what we've seen of him, and he's got that ability. but he hasn't shown it. And for him just to hit that, I mean, it wasn't even an instinctive strike. It's not one of them that's just come to him and he's hit it. It's bounced. He's had to think about it. He's had to plot it, and then he's just unleashed. And it's a stunning strike. And what will that do for him? I mean, you've got to think his confidence is going to go through the roof after that. I mean, there was a couple of times before that he was really affecting the game. He had a little run in the penalty area where he beat a couple of players, was tackled right before he got his shot away. So I think if we can see the best out of him, then Wolves are going to be absolutely fine. But I think one of the most positive things for me is that we saw a team without Ruben Neves. And I think most of us are probably resigned to losing Neves at the end of this season. No complaints from me if he goes. He doesn't owe us anything based on what he's done. And although I'm not saying let's take him out of the team now, I think we can see there's light at the end of a tunnel if he does go, because we've got players who can be effective in those positions. So all round, there was a lot of boxes ticked for us on Saturday.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's quite a lot of questions and comments regarding Ruben Neves' absence. Some that's going to create some debate, some obvious observations, like what you said there, Knocker. So we'll get them around to them with the questions. But Tyler, this wasn't just a smash and grab. This wasn't a tuck in against Chelsea and try and hit them on the counter. This for me was quite a level game. I'd say Wolves probably had more chances than Chelsea. But the main factor for me was that Wolves wanted it more. From the off, in their face, strong, positive, aggressive football and aggressive application.
Yeah, and like I said, that's all we want to see. We'll all sit here, and if we get beat, we don't. If we played like that and got beat, you can't have any arguments. It's the way and the manner that we've been, I suppose, almost powder puff, haven't we, and weak in the performances. And like Nocky said, we said, didn't we, at half time, like I was sat near you. If they'd have played like that the week before, Forest can't live with Wolves playing like that. And I think that's why there is so much frustration, because we know the players are good enough. We know the manager's good enough. And it seems it's been a little bit stop-start. And, no one can criticise where we are from where we were before Christmas. And the points per game, you can't knock it. It had just gone a bit worrying again, hadn't it? But the performance is exactly what we wanted. Kilman and Dawson were superb. Semedo was superb. Knockers called going, but they're totally out. I mean, he looks like a wardrobe falling down the stairs, doesn't he, when he's playing? But he's done wonders on Sterling, to be fair. Lamina and Gomez, there was heat maps today on Twitter, how much ground they covered. I mean, just work harder in Chelsea. It's a bit old school, isn't it? You can have all the ability in the world, but if you don't work as hard as your opposition, you probably won't get anything. And Chelsea did they? And Wolves were full value for that result. The Chelsea guy was on TalkSport today, and he didn't have any complaints, and I don't think any Chelsea fan could. We were good value for it.
Yeah, Nocky, it was. I don't know. As Tyler said, application is everything in football, because if you're not giving it all, particularly in this Premier League, we've seen all season, if you're not at it, anybody can beat anybody. But there was some good football as well. It was a good. There was lots of momentum. There was lots of positivity. And I think one of you said off air before. I can't remember which one of you said, it might have been on air. Matheus Nunes playing on the right hand side. He'd only ever played occasionally in the middle, but mainly on the left. Playing him on the right hand side, it suits him.
Yeah, that was me, because Tyler didn't rock up till the credits were rolling. So. I think it was just square pegs and square holes. It was just a sensible approach, and we know what Lamina can do. We know that he's going to break up possession. He's not going to try and take players on. He's going to break the play up. He's going to give it to the creative players and get back into position. And I think João Gomes is very similar. He must be a right pain to play against, because he was everywhere. He was at them. He didn't give them any space in midfield. But I think where we really benefited was that, as you said, I don't think Chelsea fancied it, and they seemed to really stand off us in midfield, and they gave us plenty of space. And with the quality we have got in there, we can punish you if you do that. And we were able to really play. And I know Chelsea dominated possession, but if you look in terms of actual clear-cut opportunities, I mean, Wolves had 2 or 3. I think Costa went through just after the goal and could have made it 2-0. And there was real opportunities for it. And it was all coming from midfield. We weren't breaking. We weren't just coming away after being attacked and charging up the field and trying to get into the penalty areas. We were working our play. We were working our triangles. And we were finding space in and around them, because we were in control of the ball. So real good performance. We'll be the first to criticise if we think something's gone wrong, but I think he got it right down to the substitutions as well. When he brought Coutinho on, when he just solidified the team. He brought Adama on to give us a little bit more pace, and Sarabia came on, and he would have had a goal if the referee didn't give a ridiculous foul on Hwang. He would have had a tap in for 2-0. You could see from where Chris and I was sat that he was miles in space. He was going to finish that. So it was just a very intelligent performance and one that we desperately needed. And the difference for me is that Chelsea gave us all the space we needed in midfield, whereas other teams around us tend to pack the midfield and then shut that space down, and you're working in very tight areas, whereas Chelsea just sort of stood off and said, you have the ball and see what you can do with it.
You are currently listening and watching to episode 59 of the Wolves Report with Chris Tyler, Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. As always, the show is recorded live and then you can watch again back on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. Thank you for the messages coming across the screen now. Chris, good evening. Look at those smiles, says Chilo. Yeah, we've been waiting for a smile for a while. Even all, isn't it great analysing it when it absolutely is? And still with us says, good evening, gentlemen. Lots of more comments on there. I can't go through them all, so I'll try and click on them and show them at the bottom of the screen for those watching and not listening. I want to analyse and go through the team, really. And I think the players deserve this kind of credit and just go through the performances. I mean, I'll start off with the easiest one. Jose Sarr, he had nothing to do. And what he did really do, he did quite well. It wasn't really tested with anything. And that's a credit I want to come on to first. The two centre-halves in front of him, Nocky. For me, Max Kilman, that was a captain's performance. Good on the ball, bullying forwards out the way. Nocky, that looked like the Max Kilman that Wolves fans were saying this guy could play for England. Yeah,
and real pressure on him as well, having the armband, especially when you've got Dawson, who's a born, experienced leader stood next to you. So it was a gamble from Lopetegui to give him the armband, but he embraced it, didn't he? He was organising. He looked, to me, from where I was, more vocal. I don't know whether that's just because I was paying more attention to him on Saturday than normal, but he just looked to be a little bit more in control of the defence. And there was a couple of moments where he stopped a Chelsea attack. They were appealing for a penalty, but he was just stronger. He just a very organised, solid display. But I don't think Chelsea put us under a great deal of pressure. They didn't really, until they brought Aubameyang on, I'd argue they didn't really have a natural striker through the middle anyway. So it was a comfortable afternoon for them. But if they were going to hurt us, it was going to be through midfield. And the two defenders had a big shield in front of them in the midfield. So it was a good performance, but he was well protected.
Tyler, Craig Dawson. That block in front of the keeper, I don't know if that was going on or not, but that's proper body on line defending and what we've come accustomed to with Craig Dawson's performances.
Yeah, just he's like an old-fashioned no-nonsense centre half, isn't he? And he's not really interested in playing or doing the nice bits. He just heads it, he gets in the way, he blocks it, and the partnership worked well. Didn't you? You've got a more natural footballer than Kilman. I think giving him the armband was a stroke of genius because, like Knocker said, he certainly did seem to step up, didn't he? He seemed to be out of his comfort zone almost and having to lead and do that, and he did it brilliantly. And what a day for him, to captain Wolves winning that game. But yeah, Dawson, 7 out of 10 every week. Not had a bad game yet, has he? But he's never a 10 out of 10. He's exactly what we thought he was when we signed him, isn't he? You can't talk too much about him apart from that. He does the basics well, he reads it well, and he just gets in the way, and you need to play like
that. I think, though, I mean, he's someone that loves defending, he's putting his head and body on the line, but he's not a bad footballer. He's probably not as talented in terms with the ball as Max Kilman, and that's more of a credit to Kilman than it is a criticism of Dawson. But I wasn't expecting Dawson to be as good as this. And I know he spoke highly. He's had a career, obviously, at them lot down the road. He's done very well at West Ham. He was in the Europa League team of the season last year, I think, or whatever European competition West Ham were playing in. And he's come to
£3 million.
It's strengthened us and weakened a relegation opponent as well. So people say it's a lot of money for someone in their early 30s, but it looks an absolute steal, and hopefully we can get another year or two out of him.
Yeah, and you forget how young Collins, Kilman, and Totti Gomez are. They're all at early 20s, I think.
So I think Max is the oldest at 25. The rest are early 20s. Yeah.
Have someone like him there. It's like the Moutinho effect, isn't it? He's just obviously a good professional, and these are going to be watching him day in, day out. It can't be a bad thing, can it? And I'm certain he'll be in that team next season, 100%.
Absolutely solid. Moving on to the fullbacks. I mean, you've already talked about him, Nocky, but Totti Gomez now, probably again in this. We all looked at each other at Forest when me and Tyler got the team on the train. We looked at each other. It was like there's no way. It's weird. Wing back, so he's left back, but 2 games he's in. Wolves have conceded 1 goal, and he's pocketed Raheem Sterling like he wasn't there. Sterling's got subbed because Toti Gomez has bagged him.
Yeah, and Sterling's a player who traditionally hurts us, doesn't he? He tends to score every time he plays. So he's fun. You don't know what he's going to do. He's very unpredictable. He'll get his head down and he'll charge. And he did it in the first half, and he got past 2 or 3 players just from bludgeoning his way through.
Yeah.
Just pure ignorance, refusing to stop. And he's good. And he's got a bit about him as well. He's got a little bit of pace. He's got a bit of skill. He can get past the wingers to get us out of the defensive areas. And he's a good player. I think long term, I see him as a centre half. If I'm being honest, I think he'll end up there, and I think he'll be a pretty good one as well. He's got, he's good in the air. He's physically strong, so I think he'll be okay. But long term, I don't see him staying in that position. I think that Bueno will dislodge him at some point. But at the moment, he's giving us a little bit of a foothold in the defensive areas and making us just a little bit more solid and letting the attackers play. So he's earned his shirt and he's keeping it at the moment. So well done to him.
Well, I mean, we all say it all the time, we've got our favourites, we've got our preferred formations, we've got an idea of how we want to see football, and obviously we want entertaining, winning football week in, week out. That's not realistic. But sometimes it's horses for courses and rolling the dice, and he has rolled the dice recently, but he looks like he might have found something in Toti there. And I don't imagine him to be whipping crosses in, because that's not his game. But if he's stopping players, I mean, Sterling's not having a great season, but this is someone that scores regularly past Wolves, as you mentioned. This is someone that's won multiple titles and trophies, and he's been bagged. So well done to Toti. Some of us wasn't sure if his long-term future was there, but fantastic. Tyler, moving on to Nelson Semedo. I think Semedo has probably been his consistent at his time at Wolves since Lopetegui's been here.
By far, without a shadow of a doubt. I've been his biggest critic, but I can't really remember him having a bad game. Even though Wolves haven't been great, he's sort of been Mr. Consistent at right back, hasn't he? And I can't remember an opponent getting the better of him week in, week out. I can't remember loads of crosses coming in from that side or anything like that. He's made me sort of eat humble pie, because he looks very consistent. He always looks now like a £35 million right back, which I think is the first time we could probably say that since he's been here. He's always had a spell of games where he's looked good, and then he's probably regressed or made silly mistakes, turned off in games, but Mr. Consistent at the moment. And he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet, isn't he? If he's fit, no one's getting in that spot over him. And yeah, like I said, he's made me eat my words, because he's been excellent the last few weeks.
It's, for me, Tyler, it's not a coincidence that we've seen probably... He was all right at the start under Lopetegui, but since Wolves got Craig Dawson, if you've got a centre-back that doesn't really make mistakes, that keeps it simple, your full-back trust. Because for me, Semedo is very much a confidence player. If he makes a mistake, he seems to drift off a little bit. But if you've got someone like Craig Dawson next to you, who's absolutely solid, it's only good for a confidence player.
Yeah, it's just a bit strange, isn't it? We look solid as a rock, don't we? We beat Liverpool, Tottenham and Chelsea all at home without conceding, but we can ship 4 at home to Leeds. I suppose it's just trying to find now that consistency, isn't it? And that, I think that back 4 now, is that the back 4 to the end of the season? He tried Johnny coming in at Leeds, that was a car crash. I think we've been talking about him finding a settled team, haven't we? And I don't really see any reason to change that back 4 at the moment. If you've got the players going forward, you can sort of excuse Bueno not playing and Toti playing there. He certainly makes us more solid defensively. Is there a reason to change that now between the end of the season?
The only positions I'd question is if we've got 2 games in a week with Palace coming up, because we saw with Bueno, he got a hamstring injury, he had 2 games in a week, pulled up at Liverpool, that was a midweek game. I think that's happened to Ait-Nouri in the past. He struggled with 2 games in a week. The centre-backs you can get away with it, but with the full-backs, in what the manager asks of them, I'd probably protect them against, whether it's Crystal Palace or the game after. I think I completely, if it was Saturday every week, I would play that back 4 until whenever, because they look really good. It works as a unit.
It just works, yeah. And like I said, you're all picking Bueno over Gomez as a left back, aren't you? You're not having the conversation, but sometimes it just works, and you stumble in. And it's worked, hasn't it? And you can't really knock Toti, can you, to be honest? He doesn't deserve to lose that place. But again, nice problem to have. If he does need to take him out of the team, then you've got, Bueno and Ait-Nouri that can come in. So Nice problem to have.
Yeah, I never would have thought I'd expect Toti Gomez, no disrespect, Toti, to be coming in at left back, playing 2 games on the bounce, Wolves conceding 1 goal and him pocketing Raheem Sterling. I didn't see that happening, but credit to Lopetegui, fantastic. Moving on to the midfield, and I think everyone deserves a shout out because it was a proper 7 out of 10 or more performance. Nocky, Daniel Podence, lifesaver at Forest. I was expecting to flob one over the keeper, but he didn't. I was hoping to get that tweet in, but I didn't. Daniel Podence, decent game, busy, annoying, and played his part in the goal.
Yeah, you know my feelings on Podence. He's top scorer for me. If he's fit, he plays because he can put the ball in the back of the net. He's creative. He commits defenders. He pulls people into different positions. I think he's a really, really talented player, and I think he needs to be in the team a lot more than he has been in recent weeks because he can influence a game. He can impact a game. He can be a match winner on his day. And as we saw at Forest, he got one sniff, dropped the defender, and smashed it into the top net. So he's a top quality player. I think he gets in my team. But he was very, very organised. Was involved in the game. He put the ball into the box that was cleared away to Nunes to strike. And yeah, as with the rest of them, he was a 7 out of 10. Didn't do anything overly spectacular, but did everything right.
Absolutely. Moving on to probably my man of the match, João Gomez. There's just nothing I don't love about this guy. He's absolutely everywhere. And I mean, to see this guy celebrating winning tackles and putting the ball out of play, Nocky, you must love this guy. He's just like Mr. Reducer. If there's an opportunity to deck someone, he's absolutely decking them. And he got his yellow card on the edge of the box. I think it's a foul that he had to do there. But not only is he's a stopper and a breaker up, the kid can play as well. With the ball, he's got a nice first touch and he keeps it moving.
Yeah, I really like him. I think he's got everything you'd want in a nasty, aggressive midfielder. He's full of reducers. He's full of pace. He's strong. He's only little, but his nickname's a Pitbull for a reason. So he's just a very exciting player, and he's only a kid as well. And in the grand scheme of Premier League transfers, he's cost peanuts as well. And I think he's going to be worth a hell of a lot more than that. If he can get a decent run between now and the end of the season, a full pre-season under Lopetegui, hopefully we're still in the Premier League, and starting next season, I think you're going to see an absolute top-class player there. He's just got something about him that you can just see the quality. Similar to Nunes, you knew how good Nunes was, you just weren't seeing it. Whereas with this kid, you can just see those elements are there. And we were all at Southampton when he pinged that one into the top corner in the last minute to win us a game. So he's a lad who can do it all. So I think he's a real shrewd bit of business. Yeah,
I don't think you play in the Brazilian league as a holding midfielder if you aren't tough, because that league is physical. I mean, you see some of the highlights from the multiple red cards and some of the outrageous tackles. If you're a holding midfielder for the best team in the league, you are nails. Mario Lemina got a reception. I think he's been long overdue. When he came off, they were singing a song to him at the South Bank, and it was great to see him, and he was loving that and milking that back. This is a guy that's been a bit quiet recently, but this was a proper midfield team performance from Mario.
Yeah, I think his standards have dropped slightly, haven't they? We talked about it, but I think that's probably because he'd set them so high from his first handful of games. The two of them just worked, didn't they? And like I said at the start, you'd never pick a Wolves team without Neves in it. Would you? Nobody would. I don't think any Wolves fan would if everyone's fit. But they just work brilliantly. They complemented each other. They're both a lot more mobile than Neves. That's one thing they have got over him. So they can recover. They're quick. They're strong. They're pacey. They like a tackle. And they just seem to win it back and then just keep it simple. And little 5-10 yard passes out wide. Costa was showing as an option. It just worked. And I think a few people tweeted it before, didn't they? Did the Neves suspension almost make the manager's job a little bit easier? Because he's really got to pick that team. The only quandary then was, does Moutinho play? And he didn't, and he gambled with them too, and it paid off. But it was the standards that he'd set when he first came in. He was everywhere, wasn't he? And faultless performance, yeah.
I don't know if one of you guys said it off air or on air, but Mario's best games seem to come against the better teams. Now, did one of you two tell me on that on the group chat, or someone else said that?
I think he has a problem in the midfield where you've got to be on the front foot and you have more of the ball and you have to create. Forest away, that was okay. There was almost too many in there, and he had the ball almost at third centre-back, and that's not where he's good. But the games against Tottenham, Liverpool and Chelsea, it's not a surprise that's where he's been brilliant, because he's just been horrible in there, isn't he? And he's just stopping the opponent playing. But I think his challenge is when he's got time on the ball and when he has to be a bit of a playmaker. I think that's where he struggles, but he can't be good at everything, I suppose.
No, but it's a solid performance from him again, and it's you can't help but like the guy. If someone's like that, he's putting it in. He busts a gut. He loves a tackle, and like I mean, this must have been Nocky's dream midfield pairing, to be honest. Watching them two lump everyone around. Nocky moving on to the match winner, Matheus Nunes. We've talked about him moving to the right hand side, probably being a little bit more balanced and natural there. An incredible goal, but not only that, he was a threat elsewhere as well. He was making runs in behind. He was driving with the ball. Have we found a new position for Matheus Nunes?
I think so. He seemed to almost take the playmaker mantle without Neves being there, didn't he? He seemed to really take it on and embrace it. And we've played him out on the left, and I don't really understand why we've not seen much out of him there. But playing him on the right, he's quicker than I thought he was. He was beating players with pace. He was getting.
Sorry, statistically, the fastest centre midfielder in the Premier League this season, well, even though he's not played there.
But he's but yeah, you can see he's got a turn of pace. He carries the ball so well. It's like he's gliding across the surface. Like
he's quite a big guy as well. He's deceptive. I think he's about 6'1". For someone to quit, he's a big guy and he's hard to get out of the way. Sorry to interrupt, Knock. I'm getting excited because he played well.
He's just really smooth the way he plays. I mean, you look at certain players, don't you? You look at the Ronaldos, the Eden Hazards, the Messis, the old Ronaldo. They're so.
We've had one win, mate, steady on.
No, I'm not comparing him to them. But I'm saying the way they carry the ball, they have a certain way of moving.
They glide.
Glided, and he's got that about him, the way he carries the ball, and the finish was, as we said, was absolutely phenomenal. But I think there's a real untapped resource there, and I think playing him on the right hand side, he gave him a little bit more space. He was drifting inside. He was finding little pockets of space everywhere, and it just really worked having him out there. So he's probably our best player on the ball, with the way that he carries it and the areas he can slip into. And if we can get his goals ratio up as well, then we've got some play on our hands.
Not only that, Nocky, I thought he worked well with Nelson Semedo as well. I thought
he did work really well. Yeah. And he got back as well.
Yeah.
He got back and defended a few times. He didn't just leave Nelson exposed, which, as we spoke about earlier, Semedo has looked better. Well, he's had a little bit more cover because he's had Lamina or Gomez dropping across to cover him, and he had Nunes dropping across to cover him. So if you've not got that fear of what's behind you, it gives you a little bit more impetus to get forward. And I think we saw that from him. So they all work well, and that's the key to football. It's not rocket science. If everyone knows what their job is and everyone plays in a position that they're comfortable with, you're going to get the best out of players, and that's exactly what we saw against Chelsea.
Moving on to the forward two now, Tyler. Diego Costa. I mean, Nocky said it, as we talked about earlier on. He was better off the ball than on it, but he played his part in a massive win for Wolves.
Yeah, I talked about the back four being the same between now and the end of the season, but they're my front two between now and the end of the season. I don't see how you can dislodge them. I know you can't get 90 out of Costa, obviously, week in, week out, but it just worked, didn't it? Sorry, you asked me about Costa, but I think they did work as a partnership. We've been talking about Kuna since day dot he signed, haven't we, that he just needs to be off someone. And we saw that. But Costa, yeah, he does those little runs that you probably don't notice unless you're at the ground.
Did a few at Forest. Really good runs.
Little curling runs. He just occupies the centre halves. I mean, is it that Koulibaly? I mean, he didn't give him a minute, did he? He didn't fancy it. And he just got in their face. He was unlucky not to score. He couldn't do much more with the chance. He hit the target. It was a good save. He just gives you a focal point. He gives you a target that we've not had. And we just look so much better for it. And, good 70 minutes out of him. I think the only thing missing was a goal, because I thought it was a very unselfish performance where he put the team first and him second.
Do you know what's nice about him? And it sounds like others don't, but he really wants it, Tyler. He really wants it. He's ready. Yeah, he's ready to have a fight. He's ready to fight for that ball. He's ready to fight for a throw-in. He's ready to stare somebody. And it just works. And as you said, and I'll bring Nocky in for Kuna, but his work rate and determination allowed that little bit of space for Kuna to create the opportunity. So moving on to Kuna, the last of the starters, Nocky. Again, this guy can play football. And he was the way he stopped in the second half and then burst and then blasted one over the bar, there's goals to come from him.
Yeah, it was his best performance by a country mile for Wolves, and Chris alluded to earlier, we've all been saying for such a long time that you're not going to see the best out of him as he's playing as a central striker. He needs someone around him, someone just to create that little bit of space. And Costa's absolutely perfect because, as Chris rightly said, he occupies defenders. He moves people out of position because you've got to trap those runs. And on the ball, Costa doesn't do a great deal, but off the ball, he's so important for us. You could see the amount of space that Cunha got and the confidence levels of him as well. I mean, in the second half, as you said, Roy, he stood the defender up, burst past him, and all right, he's put it over the bar. But I don't mind that because he's committed him and he's had a go. And he got us up the pitch in the first half and beat a couple of players. He looked so much more comfortable when it wasn't relying on him scoring the goals. He was able to just play his natural game and drop deep into midfield to pick the ball up or move out wide when he wanted to. It was almost a free roll, and it really suited him. And he looked a very, very good footballer on Saturday. He looked like a £40 million player the way he played. And as you said, goals will come if he keeps playing in that position with a striker ahead of him.
Absolutely. That's our roundup. I wanted to do something a little bit different this week. It was such a team performance. I wanted to give everyone a shout out and get everyone's views on that. You are listening to watching episode 59 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knott, Chris Tyler and myself, Ryan Lester. On Saturday, we took one step closer, but we've still got work to do as the next section is called Brentford at home, Leicester away, Dean Smith, Brighton away, Villa at home, Man United away, Everton at home, Arsenal away. Now, those 6 fixtures sound a lot better than they did this time last week when I was having a chat with these two on here. It's not done, guys. Tyler, it's not done. And there's a lot of work still to do. But that performance and a 4-point buffer surely gives us a bit more confidence going forward now.
Yeah, you look at it. I mean, it's 8 above Southampton, 6 above Leicester, isn't it? Surely those two don't overtake us, especially the form Leicester are in. I think it's one more.
Away to Man City on Saturday, Leicester.
I know. I think I've always said 40 points is your benchmark. It's what you aim for. That's another 3 wins. I think we'll get another 2, and I think that'll be enough, to be honest. 37, 38 will keep you in the league this season, won't it? So, yeah, it's funny. You look at the fixtures now and you think, okay, yeah, there's a point there, or there's 3 points there, whereas this time last week we were scratching around for a point, weren't we? So
Nokia had us getting 3 more points.
I might be right, yeah.
It does give you a different outlook, but you can't read too much into the bookies. But we've gone to 14-1 to get relegated, and they're not often wrong, are they? So they think there's obviously more than 3 worse teams than us. The Leeds result was a bad one, wasn't it? Leicester can't buy a win. Southampton looked down. Forest fixtures are horrendous. Even I'd be flabbergasted if we got relegated from here. You know, it'd be purely our own doing if it happened. But I see another 2 wins, and I think that'll be all we need.
Even seeing you and hearing you be confident, Tyler, is giving me more confidence. You never say it, and I'm like, I'm going to be like a bouncy ball at work tomorrow after you've been saying that. Nocky, it's amazing what a good performance. It's amazing what a good performance and a win can do. The players look like they enjoyed it. The fans are buzzing. We've got a positive podcast. Social media's been fun. There's lots of teams below us who are suffering and scared, and we've got that little zip about us again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Chris. I think we'll win 2 more games. I think 2 wins and a draw should do it. But obviously, going into that win against Chelsea, we'd won 1 in 7, so we can't be complacent. We need to keep the foot on the pedal now, because I think we've got Brentford coming up. I think that's a winnable game for us, the way they play. They'll give us space. So we need to get these wins as quick as we can, and then see what we can achieve between now and the end of the season. You don't want to be going into those last 3 fixtures still needing a positive result. So
certainly not the last one.
No, definitely not the last one. So in an ideal world, we get the wins on the board in the next few games, and we can, we were on the beach then for the last few. But yeah, look, I was worried last week. I think we were all right to be worried because the formations weren't working, the system wasn't working. We couldn't find an 11 that suited us. We couldn't find a solid 11. So we needed some kind of result. And I think when you're looking at those fixtures, you're getting a bit worried, aren't you? But the win against Chelsea takes all the pressure away from us now. We've broken the 30-point barrier. There's clearly teams in a worse situation than us. So if we go down from here, it's an absolute catastrophe. But we can't be complacent. We've got to find those couple of wins. And I don't think 2 will do it. I don't think you'll need 40 this year. I think 37, and you're safe.
As Tyler said, 14-1. Those are massive odds. The bookies aren't often wrong, other than when Leicester won the league. And not only that, you look at any of those teams, they'll be looking up at Wolves and anyone would swap, because the league table does not lie at this stage of the season. You are where you are. Although I am staggered, and I'm not going to believe Leicester are going to go down, because I see Tielemans, I see Maddison. Vardy's older, but he's a goal scorer.
There's always one that goes that from nowhere that you don't expect. You're never too good to go down, and they're just in a pickle, aren't they? They're the worst informed team. They're the worst formed team since the World Cup, aren't they? By a distance as well. The manager, they're panicked. Do you really want? Would any of us have taken Dean Smith between now and the end of the season? You wouldn't, would you? So
over Brendan Rodgers. That's
panic stations, big time, and lose. They're probably going to lose at City. They could be 6-7, behind them. And
well, no disrespect. Everyone keeps telling you they're going to be okay, whereas everyone kept saying we're going to be okay. And you look at the quality of players they've got. I know this isn't a show about Leicester, but you look at the quality of players they've got, and it's staggering that they're down there, and you keep expecting them to go on a run. But
it's almost a crime that a squad of that talent. But my dad watched the in-depth highlights of that Leicester and Bournemouth game, and he said, "Son," he said there's just no cohesion. There's nothing. They look like a team of dead men walking. They look like it's game over. Now, Smith might keep them up. Now, surely with that team, you play attacking football. But anyway, that's enough about Leicester. That's our take on the run. Not me, Ryan Leicester, obviously the team Leicester. That's our take between now and the end of the season. But it's looking much better than it was. Let's move on to your questions. Each week, I drop a tweet out a few days before. I've had so many again this week, so thank you for your contributions. Quite a few of them overlap, so if you haven't seen your question, I do apologise. Starting off with the Totti Gomez loving. Richard, because Totti is so combative, is he the left back we need to stick with until safety is ensured? I'll answer that one. Now, I know we talked about it earlier on, and we've talked about all the players, but the modern fullback is someone that wants to get forward, to overlap, to score and assist. Totti looks like he wants to defend, like he wants to be stronger, like he wants to be quicker, like he wants to stop people. But not only that, if you've got someone that defence-minded there, I think that gives more license to someone like Podence in front of him. So therefore, because Podence isn't probably the best at tracking back, it allows Podence to probably play a little bit higher up and to take a few more risks, because you've got Totti Gomez, Max Kilman, and Craig Dawson there if Semedo's not pushed forward. So to answer the question, Richard, yes, there's absolutely no reason. Wolves have conceded 1 goal with him in the team, and they've got 4 points. We'd have probably liked 3 points at Forest and taken a draw at home, but football doesn't always work that way. But regardless, clean sheet against that Chelsea side in or out of form, that's a good result. So yeah, you guys in agreement? Totti's in?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for your question.
Unless we get slapped on Saturday, and then I won't.
But exactly, I could see. Without being a bit too much, I don't put a negative on it, but it wouldn't be me if we did it. The Forest goal came his side, and he was walkabouts for that goal. So he's in there for me at the moment. He deserves to keep his shirt, but like Knocker said, put a run of games together first.
It's a game at a time, isn't it? If we play Brentford and we win that, then yeah, you carry on. If we concede 2 or 3 goals and they're down his side, we all want Bueno in for the following game, don't we? So it's very fluid. That's
football. Thank you for your question, Richard. Zach drops a little bit of fun in here. You can either keep or sell, and I want no smart answers like both or none. These are the questions. Tyler, Raul or Costa? Which one are you keeping? Which one are you selling?
I keep Costa. I sell Jimenez.
Nocky, this is a stinker. Maybe not so really. Keep Neves or Nunes. Which one you keeping? Which one you selling? After goal of the season,
I'm keeping Neves.
Yeah, I think that's a fair answer. Sorry, Nunes, you're gonna have to score more like that. And now this is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be really interesting. Neto or Hwang?
Hwang.
I'm going to answer this first.
I'm going
to keep Hwang. Didn't think you'd hear me say that.
Neto all day long, just for his stuff.
He's made out of poppadoms, and he can't stay fit.
Hwang's fit week in, week out, and he with them hamstrings.
But I think if you look at both of their careers at Wolves, for me, if you break down the last couple of seasons, Hwang's miles ahead of Neto.
in terms of.
Not ripping up, though, are they?
No. And it's Zach's dropped in a stinker here, but it's a bit of fun for the podcast. Moving on, because we've done 45 minutes already. Chiquinho or Adama? I'm keeping Adama all day.
Yeah, all day, yeah.
But what I would say is, though, Chiquinho had a horrendous tackle put on in pre-season. Last season, he was knocking in assists left, right and centre. Had a good, strong end to the season. Direct, strong and delivers a good ball. So, in reality, it's Chiquinho will be in the squad next season. The Dharma will be off on a fringe. I'd imagine Chiquinho hopefully fit and getting looking at things again. So, Johnny or Ryan Aït-Nouri?
Johnny.
Keeping Johnny?
Oh, no, get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel sorry for Johnny, and I don't know disrespect for the guy's had 2 cruciate injuries, but he's just not the same. But pre-injuries, he was as good as left back going round. You couldn't get past him. He made goals. He scored a couple of goals as well. He was fantastic. So I mean, who knows? But
as you know, you can't be in this game. It moves on too quickly. So
absolutely, I agree. I'll be the Aït-Nouri as well, even though Aït-Nouri and Jimenez both out the squad for tactical reasons the weekend, whatever that was. I do not know. Zach, thanks for your stinker of a question.
I've got to be honest, though, on that question, I think out of everyone on that list, I think there'll only be 2 left, maybe 3 come the start of next season.
I think most will be gone, yeah.
And I think that's probably, I'd imagine Núñez, Hwang, Chiquinho and Aït-Nouri will still be there, I reckon.
I don't think Aït-Nouri will be there. I think it'll be Núñez, Chiquinho and Hwang. I think it'll be those 3. Maybe not even Hwang.
Zach's question's gone and taken us into a new direction. Thank you.
Do a whole hour on that one, Zach.
Global.
Dave asked, I think Julian Lopetegui should stick with the same lineup on Saturday and only make early changes if they are called for. Do you think he will stick? And are there any changes you would make? Great question, Dave. Nocky.
I think he should stick. I don't know if he will because he's very unpredictable when it comes to selecting lineups.
Every chance Pedence will be suspended.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we know he's going to be gone, so you'd have to make a move there. You would expect maybe Hwang comes in that position. The only one I maybe would look at could potentially be Jimenez for Costa. The only one I'd consider. Other than that, I wouldn't try.
Drop Costa.
Oh, it's not so much dropping it. I still think Jimenez technically is a better player, and we haven't seen him with someone playing just off him for a while.
But if you're not applying yourself like Costa is,
he was at his best for Wolves when he had Jota playing just off him.
Yeah, that's
fair. If you were to play Cunha in the same position, I think you'll get a little bit more out of Jimenez. I mean, there's nothing between them really, is there? Whichever one you play up there, as long as we have a natural centre forward up there, I'm comfortable with which one it is.
For the first time in a long time, if everyone's fit and no one's suspended, you don't change that team. The performance was too good as a team. There was no one you thought, maybe we changed that. Everybody had a good game, and we haven't said that for a long time. So I'm sticking with the same team. Great question, Dave. But this is Lopetegui, and he who knows what will happen.
Probably play Totti up front next week.
And if he scores, it doesn't matter. But Dave, thanks for your question.
On that point, I think you mentioned, I don't think it's necessarily the players. We could all argue between Hwang and Podence. You could argue between Costa and Jimenez. For me, it's more the setup and the formation and the aggressive front foot football. I don't care if it's Lamina or João Gomez in midfield alongside Neves, as long as it works for that game. I don't think there's much between the players, is the point I'm trying to make. I think it's more how we line up and how aggressive we are, and we've all said for weeks that's when we're at our best, on the front foot.
Well, we've said it. I mean, I put a tweet out before, a couple of days before the game, and I said 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. It's irrelevant. It's about the application and your will to win. And a lot of people responded to that after the game, which was great because they did everything they said in that tweet would happen, which was, as a fan, is what you want. You want your team to go and win your game. You want them to be aggressive. So delighted. Great. Dave, thanks for your question there. Jonah asks, which positions will be needed added in the summer based upon performances and the likelihood of transfers? Also, does the fact that we didn't have Neves on Saturday make you less worried if he departs? 2 parts of that question. Who started off with the last one? Tyler, you have the first part of that question. Which possessions need to be added in the summer based on performances?
You You could argue every forward position needs improving because we don't score enough goals. We're still averaging well below a goal a game. So I wouldn't be disappointed if any of the forward players were replaced, basically. Apart from, I think Kuna's obviously going to keep his places and he'll certainly be around the squad. But if a Podence, Acosta, Raul, Hwang, their numbers aren't good enough. You can talk about them all day long, but the output's not good enough. So I think the forward positions will need addressing. Centre half might be okay. Right back will be short, won't we, if we've only got one. Centre midfield, depending who comes and goes, might have enough there. So I think it's the forward positions. We need to find a way of scoring more goals.
There's this lad, this young Portuguese lad that's scoring a few goals in different European competitions this year. And we could get him back for absolutely nothing and have a little look at him. Don't look away now, Knocker. Don't swear.
I'm not as big a fan as you know, Ryan, but you're looking at him and Kuna as a potential turn, isn't it?
Did you see his diving head at the weekend?
I know it's after 9 o'clock. It does get a little bit excited, doesn't it? But them two have got to be worth a shot next season as a front two, surely.
I still think they'll flog him. I've got to be honest. I think they'll sell him at the end of the season.
Doesn't need torturing, mate. There's no need for that.
I'd be surprised if they get the money back on him yet. I think he'd need to have a good season with us first before you talk about getting 35 million back. But
just a quick shout on Fabio Silva's stats this season: 45 appearances. That's not 45 starts. It's more like mid-30 starts. 16 goals, 5 assists. So per games, he's almost involved in a goal every other game.
They are pub leagues. No one will discredit with them.
Okay, answer me this then. If we were linked with that player, a young player that was doing those numbers, we'd be excited about it.
Well, that's what we brought to Kuna, didn't we? He averages 1 in 6 in his career. I don't know. I'd give him a go 100%. I'd have him in and around the squad 100%.
I don't see Wolves cutting their losses on Fabio. What would we get now from this transfer? 20 million? Do you reckon you get something like that? I don't. He's got a long time left in his contract. He's gone out to get games and goals, and he's doing that. It's not his fault what league he's playing in. He's played in a league. He's gone upper league playing in Holland from Anderlecht. So I don't think he could do much more. I'd love to see him come back pre-season. As you say, Tyler, the thought of a hardened, toughened, ready Fabio Silva with Kuna just off him, I think that potentially bodes well. But let's stay up first, and we'll see where we go from there. Second half of that question, Knocker. Also, does the fact that we didn't have Neves on Saturday make you less worried if he departs?
In a sense, it does, yeah, because we've seen, as I said earlier on, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We've got players who we've brought in probably with that scenario in mind, because there's talk that he might get an extension on his deal. I think we all know that he should be playing European football. He should be in a team that's challenging for trophies. So I'm pretty much resigned to losing him. You're going to feel that hit. You're absolutely going to feel it. For me, he starts in every Wolves team that I can think of throughout the whole time I've been watching us play. So at no point do I drop him. But if he does go, I think if we can keep Lamina, keep Gomez, keep Nunes, then we've definitely got options there. But it's hard to think we're not going to feel it when he's not here.
Absolutely. And I know there's been lots of questions on my timeline for the show on Twitter about Neves not being there and it being a result of more. Well, let's not forget the high pressing squeeze against Liverpool that Neves was a big part of. So he is capable of playing that game. So it's not just because Neves wasn't in there on Saturday. The biggest difference for me on Saturday was that Wolves played with the front two, and that allowed us to go further up the pitch, higher up the pitch, and defend from the front. So
he's the best player in our squad, isn't he?
Oh,
so that's the reality.
Neves has dragged us through the last few seasons.
No one's irreplaceable, is it? I mean, we always compare because we all live obviously this way, but they sold by far their best player, and they've built a squad now that's got them in a position that they've never in when Grealish was there. Liverpool didn't win a league under Gerrard, and then he was their best ever player. They've won the league without him. No one's irreplaceable, and if you get good money for him, who's to say you can't find the next one and replace him? I'm with you, boys. He's the best player I've ever seen. Don't get me wrong, but no one's irreplaceable.
We're going to fly through a few more of these. The time is absolutely flying through. I've listened again to episode 58, says Steve Lees. Knocker, you called a Nunez worldie, so fair play. Fame is for you. He's there for you, Knocker. Against Brentford, it's potentially the same starting team. Hwang in for Podence. I think we've sort of answered that question. Thank you for your comment, Steve. Credit to Knocker. It was a worldie. I don't know where we saw that. But for me, if Podence isn't suspended now, I say because if these charges have gone this far, I'll be really surprised, even though we can't see any evidence, and we could have a whole show talking about whether he did, whether he didn't. I'm an evidence kind of guy. If he's done it and we see it, he deserves to be suspended. But if you're going to suspend him, a team that's in a relegation battle for that many games, you probably need some evidence against it. Now, whether Forest come forward in detail, whether they get witnesses to come forward, we don't know what they're doing. I don't imagine it's gone this far without him not going to be suspended. I'll be surprised. But yes, I would probably have Hwang in for Podence if he's suspended. Tyler?
Probably. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but yeah, I just think because of his work rate, his pace, his physicalness, I don't think he's in the same bracket as a footballer to Podence or Sarabia, but against a team like Brentford, you've got to work hard and match them. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, in terms of how much you could trust him for what you're asking for a wide forward or a wide midfielder to do, he's up there with the most. You know he'll track his man. You know he'll get back. He's not
Would
the
you
best.
trust him to score a goal?
Not really, no. But
if forwards, to be honest.
If he's playing left midfield, he's there to support his fullback and get forward and create. Now he's got the legs to get in behind. Kuna can create. Costa's scoring. Costa can get in amongst it. So let's see. We didn't look like the side on Saturday looked like it was creating opportunities. So in that setup,
he wasn't in it.
No, but with Podence didn't look like he was going to score either. But what I'm saying is, it's not his job. His job is there to support his fullback and to get forward and create. So, but it's a problem we'll deal with when we get to it. Hopefully, Podence isn't suspended. And it's not a nice problem to have because I don't want Podence suspended because he's got that bit of needle knocky that we like in the team, and hasn't he? So, you are listening and watching episode 59 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knott, Chris Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. I typed up so many questions and copied them over. I do apologise if not had yours on. I've had so many when we've talked so much, but it's obviously a positive show and we've had lots of positives to talk about, which is really good. On Saturday, there's a massive opportunity for Wolves to maybe looking at the fixtures to widen that gap, but we can't disrespect Brentford. They've got one of the best centre forwards around who scores a lot of goals. They're a team that's horrible to play against, we've seen. It's a massive game against Brentford, Knocker. Huge game on Saturday, big opportunity, but one we can't take lightly.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that about Tony as well, because he's had a suspension hanging over him for the last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, he's still playing.
I bet you he hasn't.
He's going to get banned on the back of something that happened less than a month ago, but that's another story. I think they're a good side. I think where maybe we've got a little bit of an advantage is that after the weekend, their European search is probably over. I don't think they're going to get there. So are they off on the beach? There's a chance they might be. So they're a good team, but I don't think man for man they're better than us. They've clearly had a better season, but I still think we've got players that can hurt them. And if you take Tony out of the equation, if you keep him quiet, and Wemmo's one that's hurt us in the past, but I do think Wolves can get a result out of this, especially if we play with the same sort of tempo, work rate and system that we did against Chelsea. I do think we can get a result.
Tyler, massive game, massive opportunity. The door's open.
Yeah, I'm the knocker. I'll be disappointed if we didn't. I don't care how good a season Brentford have had. I'm not going to Molineux expecting to lose at home to Brentford, if I'm honest. I don't care how good people say they are. Like you said, man for man, they're not better. So I think if we replicate the energy levels, the aggressiveness of Saturday, I fully expect us to pick up a result, to be honest.
Absolutely. I think the key thing for me, and Steve mentioned here regarding Hwang or Podence, if there's an opportunity to play the same team, I think you have to go again. You can't break up a performance that just looked so fluid at times and everyone knew their jobs. The press was good. Supporting the fullbacks was good. The midfielders, they did a bit of everything. So it has to be the same again. And I think if Wolves reward those players with a deserved keeping of the shirt the following week, I think Wolves have got a real good chance. Be positive. They can be got at, but equally they can get you as well. But it's the Premier League. If you have an off day against anybody, Southampton included, you will lose. So Wolves can't go and think, oh, we beat Chelsea, we're fine. If we're not at it, we will lose that game of football. Almost at the end of the show, it's prediction time. Massive game, massive opportunity. Knocker, you've called the worldie last week. You have the royalties now. Tell us who's going to score the worldie this week when Wolves face Brentford on Saturday.
I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves, and I'm going to go Matheus Cunha.
Oh, where from? Whereabouts? What time?
Do you know what? I think he gets in the box and taps in from 7 yards out.
He's going to do it, isn't he, Tyler?
Cross from the right. That's what I'll go with.
Lovely. Tyler?
I still don't think we've got 2 goals in us. So I'll say 1-0. And I'm just going to say Costa between now and the end of the season until he does score. So
like 204 before he scores. But the scenes when Costa scores are going to be absolutely off the chart. I called a draw last week and it worked. So I'm going to go with some weird superstition. I'm going to call it a draw. And I think I said Matheus Cunha. So I'm going to keep saying that until Cunha scores. But yeah, I'm saying it. I do believe Wolves will win, but I'm saying it out of superstition because last week, whatever happened worked. You've been watching and listening to episode 59 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to Chris Tyler, our director of football. Thank you to club captain Mark Knock. I've been Ryan Lester, your host. Hope you enjoyed the show, and hopefully you'll enjoy the show next week after Wolves beat Brentford. Up the Wolves.